I do want to get into the New York Jets before we have Von Hutchins on the show. He's an ex-cornerback in the NFL and now NFL scout. We're going to have him on in a couple of minutes. I want to get into the New York Jets, and right now there's a good chance, a very good chance that the Jets could land their number one corner. Something that they were looking through in the draft. They added Hall in the later round, so a lot of people believe he could be the future number one corner for the New York Jets. He will probably not play this year, and if he does play, he's going to play very lightly on that leg that he tore his Achilles. But the Jets are right now talking to Logan Ryan, and Logan Ryan, who was obviously not even obviously, he was one of the best corners in the first half of the season last year and was up for Defensive Player of the Year the way he was playing last year. He had 4 interceptions. The great thing about this kid, and I say he's a kid because he is 29 years old. He's still in the prime of his career. He came from the New England Patriots organization. This is a guy that knows how to win. He's won Super Bowls. He's been in the winning. He's been on that winning side. He's been in the AFC East. He's worked and he's played in the AFC for almost 5 years before he went to Tennessee. So this guy understands all the players in that division. Now, there are obviously new players from Miami and the Jets and the Patriots, but he knows Julian Edelman. He knows these players that he played with. Mm-hmm. So the benefits of the New York Jets bringing in Logan Ryan is high.
I think, too, the biggest thing when you look at the Jets is Pierre Desir could be a number one corner if he develops well, but he's not there yet. So I think Ryan gives him a more surefire of I don't necessarily think maybe skill-wise a top 10 corner or number one type corner, but somebody that's
top 15.
Somebody that's in Bill Belichick's defense been the guy oftentimes shadowing number one receivers, helping out on double teams, press zone type things. And I think that Gregg Williams, who's a creative defensive coordinator, is going to do that kind of thing too. And the Jets have the personnel to do something similar. Dante Hightower was the guy for the Patriots doing that a lot of the time, or Jamie Collins. And the Jets have those guys too in the middle with Mosley and Williamson. So they could do a lot of different things. And the Jets are going to get him pretty cheap too, because again, he's been in the market for so long. His value's dropped. He came off a pretty bad contract with the Titans.
They're only signing him for 1 year.
Right. So he's not going to be making a lot of money, where the Jets, if he does struggle, can just get rid of him pretty easily, because he was bad in the 2018 season and he bounced back nicely 2019. So it depends on what you'll get out of him.
He was up for Defensive Player of the Year last year before the whole second half happened, and he got hurt for a little bit of time. He did play hurt, and throughout the season he played hurt. And Tennessee went to the AFC title game, and he was one of the main reasons why they got there.
He played very well in that game against the Patriots.
Yes. So adding Logan Ryan to this team makes them that much better. And you could say whatever you want. The 3 positions that the Jets needed to add to in this year's draft was offensive line help, they needed a pass rusher, and they needed cornerback help. And they added all those but a pass rusher. Mm-hmm. They did add a pass rusher from Florida. Right. I don't think he will be a superstar pass rusher for the New York Jets because, again, this wasn't a pass rushing draft for any team. Mm-hmm. So Young was the number one pass rusher in this year's draft, and then there was Brown and a couple other players that were drafted later in the second and third rounds. But the New York Jets did not add a real top end pass rusher in free agency. So adding somebody like Logan Ryan to that secondary, which arguably could be the best secondary in football now. When you also added C.J. Wilson in the draft as well. In the 7th round, you added C.J. Wilson from the Indianapolis Colts. So now you have options at the cornerback position, something the Jets have not had over the last couple of years, really since Revis and Cromartie.
Right, and even if Ryan is not the high-end number one corner,
he is going to be their number one corner.
He's going to be their number one corner. At least it's a complementary core now. At least it's not, all right, let's go pick on this guy because he's not good as an outside corner. Logan Ryan and Desir are both now decent options with that, where you got then you have Poole after that. You have Ashton Davis if he's in that kind of rotation.
C.J. Wilson.
Quincy Wilson.
Quincy Wilson.
He's a slot type too that I think.
I thought it was C.J. Wilson, but okay.
No, C.J. Wilson's a baseball player. Mm-hmm. But you have a lot of guys you could definitely rotate within that realm, where the Jets don't really have that one obvious guy to pick on like they did obviously when Tremaine Johnson was there, that bad contract, and some of the other corners they had after that.
They added stability to that cornerback position.
So at least you have now something where it's not obvious who they're going to throw to. It's not obvious who they're going to shadow in terms of different wide receivers, different game plans. And it gives Gregg Williams that creativity. And that's how he's exceeded a lot with the Rams. And a lot of the corners that played for the Rams, just like we were saying, Tremaine Johnson, Janoris Jenkins, EJ Gaines, guys like that, they didn't do well after they left the Rams because, again, they weren't used as creatively. And Gregg Williams does a great job with that. And
you forget about Jamal Adams. You forget about Marcus May. And how about Ashton Davis? Ashton Davis, who they added the third round pick. If you didn't like what Joe Douglas has so far done this offseason, then you don't love football. You don't like football. Look at what he did. He moved up. He moved down in the draft. He received more draft picks from the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. And they added Denzel Mims. They needed a wide receiver, a big playmaker. They got him in the second round, who could have been a first-round talent. Mm-hmm. They added Becton in the first round at number 11, who arguably was the best offensive lineman in this year's draft. And you look at all the other pieces that they added in the draft and then added free agency. He didn't give long-term deals to any of these guys. He gave Font a 3-year deal with a 1-year option that the club can actually opt out of his contract after the first year. McGovern, he signed a 3-year deal worth about $27 million, only $20 million guaranteed for one of the best centers in the league, one of the top 7 or 8 centers in the league. They added Van Roten, who was on the Carolina Panthers when they went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, when they were one of the top offensive lines in football. And then they still have Brian Winters there, and they solidified their offensive line. They solidified their secondary. The weakness of this team now is they need more playmakers. They need another wide receiver. I don't think Denzel Mims is the only guy they need.
Not right away, no.
They need another superstar wide receiver that's going to help out Denzel Mims, Crowder, and some of the wide receivers that they have on the team. And they do have Herndon, and they still have the tight ends that they have where they can be very explosive. And what worries me about the Jets is they didn't add that pass rusher that's going to open up holes for Quentin Williams to really develop.
Yeah,
that is going to be the problem for the Jets, is trying to find ways for Quentin Williams to develop into the player that they believe he was going to be when they drafted him last year as the third pick of the first round.
I think Joe Douglas's philosophy has really been more in terms of developing certain cores as being more well-rounded rather than getting one player. And I think that's the reason maybe they didn't get the pass rush, is because it just wasn't there this year. Everything was either top-heavy, whether it was free agency of the draft, Ngakwe, Clowney, etc., and obviously Chase Young, or it was back draft later. So the pass rush was the one thing they couldn't do. The offensive line was there, the secondary was there, and they took advantage of that. And they're just getting pieces that maybe could fill a good core, a bunch of 2s, a bunch of 3s that could just make a good core together with the coaching.
And Logan Ryan is not signed yet with the New York Jets, but there is a very good chance. Their reports are believed, this is 6 hours ago, that the Jets will sign Logan Ryan either today or tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So, which usually means, unless somebody slips right in, Logan Ryan will be a New York Jet. Mm-hmm. So adding Logan Ryan really solidifies their secondary. And we're talking about a team that went from a team that everybody said is a borderline second or third wild card team to being possibly a division winner this year. Because you could say what you want about the Bills and some of the acquisitions that they made in the offseason. And they added Josh Norman. He hasn't been Josh Norman for the last 3 years.
Well, they don't need him to be.
And Logan Ryan's been a better corner than Josh Norman has been for the last 3 years.
Remember, the Bills don't need him to be that.
It doesn't matter. The fact is that Josh Norman went to the team and they expect something from him. If he doesn't play up to par like everybody thinks he could play, Josh Norman was a waste. And then they added Stephon Diggs, and I'll tell you this right now, one of the most overrated wide receivers in the league. And I've said this over and over again, and he's been on my fantasy team year in and year out. I've drafted him in the 5th or 6th round. He really has not produced the way I thought Stephon Diggs was going to produce year in and year out as a wide receiver. Is he a pure number 1? He isn't. He is a number 2.
We'll have to see again. Now he's going to be off of Thielen, who played with them for 4 years. Will that mean more exposure to number 1 corners? Will it be more targets? We'll have to see with how that is played out. It'll be up to the Bills coaching staff to make that happen.
Besides that, what did the Bills do? I mean, everybody keeps giving. Every single person in the NFL Network is solidifying the Bills
fans
to win the division. That's what it seems like. Every single person that we've talked in the NFL now on the NFL Network has said that the Bills are going to win the division, that the Bills could be their sleeper of going to the Super Bowl this year.
The Lions fan
Because they added a wide receiver and a corner. That's what they did. Now, their defense is one of the top defenses in the league. They've been one of the top defenses in the league since their coach came there. They've been, even when Rex Ryan was there, they were one of the top 10 defenses in the league. They have a great defense, a good front seven, and they have a very good secondary. And White, who is a superstar corner, probably.
You would argue he's the best corner in football right
He
now.
could be. I don't think he is, but I think he's one of the top five.
He's top three,
I think he's one of the top five.
Okay.
But when you look at what the Jets have done so far this offseason, how could you say that the Jets aren't going to challenge the Buffalo Bills? The Jets added more to their offensive line than the Bills did. Now, the Bills added 2 offensive linemen last year's free agency.
And draft.
The Jets added 5 offensive linemen this offseason and got rid of 3 offensive linemen. It could add to that with Brian Winters being gone.
The other factor to look into with that, too, is look at the hype, all the hype the Browns got last year, and they weren't ready for it. You wonder if that kind of media attention now getting to be more of a favorite type of thing could be something that hurts the Bills, too, just not being used to it. I think the Bills, when they've done well recently, have just embraced an underdog role more than anything else.
I don't understand why anybody thinks that the Bills are going to be the favorites of winning division. I don't know what the Patriots are. I don't know what Stidham is going to be this year. Stidham could be a star quarterback. He could come out of nowhere, and he wasn't a low draft pick. So I think he was drafted in the third round,
fourth round
pick. Mm-hmm. So and Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round, and maybe Stidham is the quarterback of the future for the New England Patriots. Maybe they have enough firepower to beat the Jets and beat the Bills out for the division, or even Miami. Miami could surprise a lot of people with Tua being the starter this year, and with some of the acquisitions that they've made in this offseason, where Miami could win the division. So it's open. The AFC is open. The AFC East is open. And I love what the Jets have done. I really do. And you add Logan Ryan, who was one of the best corners available in this free agency, could be the best corner in free agency this year. And the fact that he wasn't signed by anybody is a complete joke. A complete joke. I was very surprised. Tennessee, who went to the AFC title game, they beat the Patriots and went to the AFC title game. And Logan Ryan had a lot to do with it. They decided not to re-sign him.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, especially with the struggles that Malcolm Butler has had since he got there, too. You would think they would want to bring back Ryan to go along with Adoree Jackson.